Yes, yes, I am. Good evening.
Okay, please can you record from your own end? I don't know. I'm trying to. Okay, I think it's recording now.
Yes, it is.
Confirm it's recording from your end.
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you. So I'll just. Okay, so I'll be sharing my screen now. Just give me a minute. Do let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, it's coming up.
All right, thank you so much. So I'll just start. Oh, this work. It should work. Okay, so I think on Saturday someone asked the question towards the end of of our class, and the person was like, um, Esther, your hand is still raised, so you can take it down so it doesn't distract, except you have a question. All right. So just going straight to what we have for today. Someone asked a question on Saturday about user research. So the person wanted to know, okay, so how do you go about research if most of the things a designer has to do or a product designer has to do is to understand your users? So how do you go about this? What does user research entail? Now it's really a very broad it's a very very broad, let's say, terminology, and I think most of us are like students and workers, like we're from different fields, different cultures, different cultural backgrounds, different places, different locations, and research is actually something that is very common across board. One way or the other, you must have done research before. If you're on this call and you know you've done research before, can you just maybe give me a thumbs up? Let me be sure that we're on the same page. All right, thank you so much. So basically, that's just as much as you understand what research is. That's the beginning of it. So research is something we've all got involved in one way or the other. And I think maybe one person can just quickly tell me what they understand by research. Then we'll continue. Who has not spoken before? Um. Okay, gifts. You can speak.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay. Research basically means gathering facts and factuals actually concerning a particular topic or issue at hand.
Thank you so much for that gift. So it's gathering information about a certain topic, a certain subject. That's what research majorly is. Research is going ahead to finding out. So it means in research, if there's anything that is always going to be involved is questions and seeking for answers. So that's basically what research is. Now when you say user research basically means you're doing research for users, that is trying to understand your users, trying to gather information from your users. Now in the context of UX and product design, the reason why you're trying to gather this information about your users, it could be about how they maybe do a particular thing, how they go about a particular um maybe a particular aspect of their lives, how they go about probably work, probably school, whatever the context is, right? That's what user research is. You want to understand how they do these things. Do they experience any challenges as they do these things? Do they have any issues as they do these things? all in the bid to create better experiences for them. In some cases, it could be better products. Now, this is basically what user research is. Now, I know that the reason why we're actually going into it, I think one question that has always been coming in is UX and UI, are they like separate things? And I know like the way we kind of split it up in this training just kind of felt like, are they not the same? Because I mean the common terminology we know about is UI UX. I'm a UI UX designer, I'm a UI UX designer, I'm a product designer, I'm a UX designer, I'm a UI designer. All those terminologies, a lot of times they keep on clashing. So the main reason why we decided to like split it up in this training is to make sure that you have a good foundation in each of these different areas so that you can easily make a decision on, okay, do I want to like, I know we talked about the career paths in your second session, that was on Friday. And this being able to understand, have a thorough understanding of these different areas, whether UX, whether UI, probably service design and all of that. But at least for this fellowship, we are covering majorly UX and UI. So if you're able to understand these two things, able to understand where the two of them come together, then you can easily say, oh, I want to major in probably UX. I want to major in probably UI, or I want to do the two. Like I'm just perfect to doing both. At the end of the day, what's very important is in whatever area you decide to specialize, you just have to be sure that you understand everything there is to know about it and you are a master at it. So if at the end of your training, if they're saying, okay, at least the goal for you should be in the next 5 years, 10 years from now, in the next 10, 15 years from now, I want to be like the top, part of the top 1% on this in this career path. So whether it's UX and UI, whether it's UX, whether it's UI, whether it's product design generally, I want to be the top number 1%, part of the top 1%. So I think for me that would be the goal of everybody on this call. You could have your own personal goals. It's very much accepted. But coming back to what we are discussing today, which is user research basics. Now, user research, as the same way we have UX, user research is like it could be like say it can even be a carved out niche for itself. So if you decide to specialize, you can even specialize in just user research, and we'll be delving into what it entails in subsequent slides. So moving on. All right. So in this session today, we'll be covering what user research is, and then we'll be recapping the design thinking process, because everything you've been doing from day one till the like that you've been doing from day one, you're currently doing, and you'll be doing till the end of the training. Everything is connected, even till when you now get to UI. Everything is just going to be an entire flow, and in most cases, that's the process you'd have to take if maybe you'd have to take on if maybe you have a new project. So you want to understand what user research is, what the design thinking process is, and how user research comes into the design thinking process. Then we'll discuss on the different UX research methodologies and frameworks. And I touched a bit on frameworks on Saturday. They would also talk about some ethics of user research, and finally would speak about how this user research is integrated into the design thinking process. Um, so moving to the next slide. Please, if you have any questions, you can just raise your hand and I'll quickly take that. All right, so going into it, what is user research? Now, there are a lot of factors or a lot of things that would help us understand this terminology. And the first thing is user experience. Now, like I've said, user research is, as much as you know what research already is, but this one is now centered around the users. And as it's centered around the users, what are we focusing on for the users is UX, that is their experience. Now, UX is a broad umbrella that can be divided into into four major disciplines. That's experience strategy, interaction design, user research, and information architecture. Now, in UX, these are the major like aspects they are to it, right? Now, a UX designer is concerned with the entire process of acquiring and integrating a product, including aspects of branding, design, usability, and function. It is a story that begins before the device is even in the user's hands, right? So the UX designer is that person that does everything there is to do about gathering information, breaking down this information to become actionable steps in developing products. So that's what a UX designer is, who a UX designer is rather. Now, you because of the way most of these let's say duties are intertwined in the industry, right? There are some aspects of branding you might necessarily get to do, and then of course like the actual design of the product, which is like in most cases prototyping the products, that's bringing the products to life beyond just the ideas, and then usability and function. Now that's what the UX designer does. Now UX and user research is the practice of understanding user needs, behaviors, and attitudes in order to inform the design and development of digital products and services. Now, just a thing to note here, right? For the development, it can be beyond just digital products and services, but I think in Nigeria though, like one of the rampant aspects of UI and UX that we majorly focus on is digital products, that is mobile applications, web applications. But I want you all to see it beyond just digital products because it is actually way more than that, right? So if like I've already said, it's about the users. So we are looking at what the users need, how the users behave. That is how they go about maybe doing a particular thing, how they would maybe respond to a particular kind of situation, understanding all those cues from your users, understanding their attitudes, the way they behave, the way they do things in order to inform design and development. Now, all this information you're gathering, like I've said, is for you to be able to feed into your design decisions, to be able to make more informed decisions when you are designing. Now, the goal of UX research is to create products that are easy to use, enjoyable, and meet the needs of the users. Now, if at the end of your process, you've gotten to that tail end now where you have a probably, let me use a phone as an example, where I now have a phone. Now, the UX designer that worked with the team that developed the phone that I'm currently holding right now, that designer, the main goal the designer had in mind was that at a time like this, Melvina is going to be Melvina is going to be using this product, and this product that Melvina is going to be using should be something that is easy for her to use. It means that I don't need to start probably always reaching out to the producers of the phone to always use my phone. Like if I want to imagine I want to turn on my phone and I'm always like, please, can I call this company and tell them that I don't have to turn on my phone? Can I call them and tell them they should please tell me where to find my phone log? Can they please tell me where to find my WhatsApp? Can they please tell me where to find my contact list? Can they please tell me? I mean, it's going to be very, very, very stressful and challenging if I always have to reach out to be able to use those things. So the fact that they can think of everything that you would need even ahead of like way years ahead of when the user would even have that product, then it just tells you the kind of let's say the kind of thought you need to put into your process, right? And as much as it sounds, it's really not I will not say it's easy though, but then the fact is that it's centered around human behavior, it's centered around the way people do things, it's centered around the way people are wired to do things, right? So it means if there's a certain way you would respond to something now, 50 years from now, right, there might be a change, but there's every possibility that someone 50 years from now in your own let's say within your current age range might now, because of some other reasons like maybe technological advancements, some of those things around evolution and the rest of that, some things might change, but there is a high possibility, there's a high chance that it's still maybe that same character, it's still maybe that same like say behavioral pattern that those kind of people would still be used to or will still be subjected to once it's the same situations around it. So that's just simply why user research is an interesting field, because it's something that is centered around human behavior and the way human beings behave. Most times like they are all centered around patterns. There's a way, like I was explaining the other day, most times it's like, okay, you wake up in the morning, you need to do this, you need to do that. In most cases the process is already kind of linear for a human being. So it's just in extreme cases that you see people that they'll just do things differently, maybe because they've gotten more exposure or they've been subjected to more extreme conditions, then they will now do things differently. But overall you just find out that everybody, majority of people might tend to go the same way, and that's why most of the products that you use intentionally or unintentionally, you already like know how to use it before you even start using it. So if maybe for instance I'm using an Android phone now, right? And I get an iPhone. Someone gives me an iPhone or gives me an iPhone. Now, if I'm using this iPhone, I do not need to. I mean, some people feel like it might be complicated, but then it's not really a lot of rocket science. I do not need to start watching a lot of YouTube videos to now understand how to use the iPhone. Some things are different, yes, in terms of like the experience, in terms of even the interface. I mean, placements of most of their things are a lot different, but you still see some atom of similarities there, and that's because it's still human beings that are doing it. So it's still human beings that were studied to know how to do these things. So there's already like a way people do things that would even help you to form a basis for some of the decisions you'll be making, right? So that's just a brief about what UX research is. Does anybody have any questions before I move to the next slide? If you're good, just give me a thumbs up. If you're confused, you can raise up your hand. All right, thank you. I'm seeing hands everywhere. All right, so we are moving to the different types of research. Now, it's a very broad thing, right? And I know that most of us we've already done research in different fields. Most of us are currently doing research. Some will keep doing research. In fact, like as far as I'm concerned, research is something that we do almost every day. I mean, even now with the rise of AI, any small thing, just see people asking AI one question. Sometimes you can even, I mean, it's not going to be surprising if one day I just wake up and I start asking AI, please, what is my name? So it's actually that funny though. But yeah, that's how basic research can be. It means asking questions, right? Asking, being inquisitive, being someone that wants to get information, open-minded and all of that. So there are different types of research. So we have the descriptive research. So this kind of research is basically trying to understand the concepts around things, like breaking down something into the barest minimum. So an example is like if you want to find out about, I know most of you, when you got to hear about TEFEM African Fellowship, probably the first thing you did was to quickly go to Google and say, okay, please, what is TEFEM Fellowship, African Fellowship about? So that's a basic example of a descriptive research. You just want to find out like details about something. Then we have experimental research. Now, experimental research for most of us that did science. So all those kinds of will I say studies or research that we do in laboratories, most times in the closed spaces. Sometimes it could be open spaces too, and beyond just the normal, maybe what do you call those things? Can't remember some of those terminologies now, but beyond all those ones to do with like chemical reactions and all of that, there are still other kinds of experimental researches that people do. So, and a popular example that I don't know, most of us might have heard about it and all, but I know we are from different places in Africa here, right? So we have this show in Nigeria. We have like Big Brother Nigeria. Then in I think for Africa there's Big Brother Africa as well. So Big Brother Africa, yeah, is like a kind of experimental program, an experimental research program to like study people, to see their behavior, subject them to a kind of situation and experience, and see their the way they react to some of those experiences, the way they would like stay together knowing that people are looking at them and all of that. So that's an example of an experimental research. It means having constraints, like things you want to study about. You want to know, okay, how would they react to this? And then you place that kind of situation in their front. So that's I think that's the closest example I could give to it that you all might easily understand. Then we have the exploratory research. So exploratory research is almost like descriptive research too. So you trying to explore, find out everything there is to know. So beyond just maybe finding out about TEFEM African Fellowship to be able to give it a meaning in your mind, then exploration now would now be okay. What are other kinds of fellowship? What are other kinds of fellowships I could check out for? What are other kinds of fellowships within Africa? All those kind of things. Like you now going outside the box to probably explore or go beyond the those constraints or borders now, right? So that's what exploratory research can be described as. Now we also have the qualitative research. Now qualitative research, like the name entails, is speaking to quality. So what quality means, I'm going to be using it as a versus, I'm going to be explaining it in contrast to quantitative research. So it's going to be a quantitative or qualitative kind of thing, qualitative versus quantitative. Now, qualitative research simply means gathering information too, but now this information is not numbers. Quantitative means numbers, like I'm measuring with numbers. So if I want to speak to probably 300 users in 300 users that use 300 people that use toothpaste. Now those 300 people, I want to find out how many of them use Close Up, how many of them use McLean, how many of them use Dabo. These are different toothpaste brands. Now, if I want to study them, I say, okay, out of 300 people, from my study, I find out that um 20% use Dabo, 50% use Close Up, and 30% use McLean's. Now, that's an example, a common example of quantitative research. So I'm looking at the quantity, numbers. So whenever they say quantitative, what your head should go to is numbers. Now, the next kind of research is qualitative. Now, qualitative is not numbers. Qualitative is the way they say quality over quantity. Now I'm not saying any of them is more important than the other, because there are some clients, or there are sometimes when you require to use qualitative and quantitative depending on the situations. Now for qualitative research, now you're looking at stories, like things that people are saying. Um, um, there are a lot of other ways you could present it. I would have said like journeys, but then you might not be able to like relate to that till we get to that aspect. But that's another example of a qualitative research. Now, qualitative, we also look at a lot of times pictures, videos, depending on the context and what maybe you're required to present. But you're not looking at numbers now, you're looking more at what is inside this number. So if 50% of people are using close up, so what is it about this 50% of people? Within this 50% of people, how do they hold this toothpaste? Where do they buy this toothpaste from? How do they, all those like additional details that will now give a lot of flesh to the numbers. That's what qualitative is. Now, beyond aside, if I just want to take away quantitative from the picture now, qualitative can still stand alone. It means that I might not even need to start saying 50% of people, but I could now use that number to say, okay, all of you use toothpaste. So out of all of you that use toothpaste, where do you buy it from? Who do you buy it from? Who gives it to you? If they gift it to you, how do you get it as a gift? Has there been any discount you've gotten as you've been buying it? This is just an example. Then I can now decide to say, okay, so what type of toothpaste do you use? Now, this, as much as this is sounding like a qualitative kind of question, at the end of the day, I can get quantitative from it, because by the time I've asked 10 people, I'll now see people that are telling me I use close up. The other person is telling me I use double. Then maybe another person now tells me I use close up. So you've seen that even with qualitative now, I've still gotten quantitative data. So a lot of times they go hand in hand. It could be either qual or quant. So that's about the types of research. Does anybody have any questions while I move to the next slide? All right, thank you. So, quickly, this is what we are going to be talking about next, which is we'll be quickly recapping the design thinking process, because this is where we came from. Now, I want us to, with everything we've heard so far, we're going to now marry the different kinds of user research, what user research is about. We're going to now marry it to um the design thinking process. Now, to be able to marry to the design thinking process, I want you people to unmute and speak now. You guys are going to be educating me. I've been talking since. So you guys are going to educate me on what the design thinking process is, and how do you think, or where do you think that this user research would fall in our design thinking process? Who would want to go first? Who has not spoken in my class before? But if you want to speak, you can raise. Yeah, Choma, please go ahead.
Okay, I feel like
Choma, you
the
can unmute.
yes,
Right.
good evening, everybody. I feel like the design thinking process is the emphasizing phase where you first of all understand the user and the defining phase. That's where the design thinking process comes about.
All
Did
right. Thank you,
anybody
Choma. Someone else raised their hand. I heard you, Choma.
okay, okay.
Thank you. Someone else raised their hand. Okay, Udoka, you can speak.
Yes, good evening, everyone. So for me, I think the design thinking phase should be come at the beginning, where probably your client is presenting what he or she wants, and then you are trying to make a research to see what is going to look like in your head, to see if it's actually like what it's probably going to look like as a finished product. So for me, basically, design thinking should come first at the beginning. Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying design thinking, is it design thinking now or user research? Like the question is, at what phase in the design thinking process does user research come in?
Oh yeah, sorry. It's still the same thing at the beginning. Sorry, I missed the terminology up. Yeah.
Okay, okay, that's fine. So I don't completely agree with trauma and Udoka, right? Yes, and I don't know if anybody agrees with me, and maybe you want to just add something else. They're actually right. I mean, you add it to that point, but I still feel like there's still an answer to it. Does anybody want to add to that? Frank, is it Franca now? People are raising, plenty people are raising their hands. Okay, Franca, go on.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So, I was about to say the empathize stage because it is like the first stage of the design thinking process where the goal is to understand the user needs, pain points, and their motivations. And for you to understand what the user needs, you need to conduct a form of research so you would know how to align what you're about to do with their needs and their wants. So, that's what I wanted to say.
All right, thank you so much, Franca. Does any other person have anything to add? Joyce, you just dropped something. Do you want to speak? Okay.
Okay, what I was just good evening everybody. You were asking at what point um can the user research be made? I wanted to just be sure that was what I'm answering for.
Yes, yes.
But is it right to say it can be made at any point, like in case there's new development and you keep making research at every and any point?
Thank you so much, Joyce. That's actually what I wanted to get. Now, if you remember from our session, please before I even stop, can you clap for Joyce? Clap for Chioma, Udoka, and who was the other person? I can't remember her name. But if we should clap for them, give them one clap, then give Joyce two claps. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of hands. So you all were right. You get, it comes in at the empathizing stage. But if you remember what I mentioned, the very first when we were explaining what the design thinking process is, the first thing about it is that it's an iterative process. So if I say it is an iterative process, it means that user research can come in at any point in the process, right? It's non-linear. Thank you so much, Joanne. So if maybe I've gotten to, I think I even use this as an example. You've gotten to the prototyping phase. Now, if you're prototyping and you now want to test, you do not test with people from the sky, you still test with users, and that's another form of research. Now it could even now become maybe even experimental because you're trying to now know if this thing works or it does not work, right? So it can come in at any point, but heavily, you all are right, it comes in more at that initial phase of empathizing, because that's where, like, in the design thinking process, like that we've already kind of drawn out, that's where heavily you need to focus on just the user. But at every other phase, you're now thinking of, okay, how do we frame this to now mean something as an idea that the user can still use. The user is still there, but now the user is not just the only person you're looking at. You're looking at something that is also feasible, something that your clients too, are they going to align with it and all of that. So you all are very right, so you can clap for yourselves again. Then one more person, please, just Can you just highlight briefly the 5 stages or the 6 stages so that we'll just get it in our get a reminder of it again? Quickly, quickly, quickly. All of you should be raising your hands. Who has not spoken? Frank has spoken. Udoka has spoken. Ella, please speak.
Hello. Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Yes. So you said we should outline the 6 stages of design thinking.
Yes.
I think it's empathize, define,
Mm-hmm.
prototype, test, and implement.
Okay. We should miss out anyone. Munachi.
Okay. The six processes are empathize, ideate, define, ideate, prototype, test, and implement.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. You're right. So yeah, what's her name? It was what you said was right. It's empathize. I think what you left out was I did. So just take note of that. So you first empathize. I'll not say you first. You empathize, you define, you ideate, you prototype, you test, and you implement. Thank you, Ngozika, for dropping it on the group chat, on the call chat. So moving on. All right, so we have several methodologies. In our next class, I would like show how these methodologies work and what they actually look like. But I don't know if these classes have been very boring because there's been a lot of explanations and explanations. But I just feel like at this phase, right, I what my focus is to make sure that you understand the process, you understand the concept, because anything you do now is like laying a very strong foundation and it will make you stand very strong. By the time you got into the point of UI and maybe you guys have started using Figma and all of that, like you're not just using Figma for Figma's sake. You know that for everything you're doing, there's a reason why you are doing it. Now, just to explain the different methodologies that we have, so methodologies are simply methods like how to how do you go about research? What are the tools that you could use to help your research process? Now, if I just tell all of you, okay, I want you all to find out, yeah, I want all of you to find out let me just ask it as a simple question. I want you to find out how people in your country, the kind of toothpaste that is more prevalent in your country. Now, can anybody give me 3 ways, 3 different ways they can find out this information? Ella and Franca. Okay, Franca.
Okay, good evening. One of the ways
Yeah, good
is through
evening.
surveys, user interviews by conducting interviews, and the last one would be um, ah, I've forgotten. I can't remember. Sorry.
Can you
Your voice is breaking. We can't hear you now.
Oh, thank God. I was thinking it was from my own end. Can someone else maybe speak while she tries to fix her network? Beloved, you can speak.
Okay, so like she mentioned, I wanted to say surveys. And in addition, I would say maybe sorting it according, still surveys, but sorting it according to probably age groups. Because I think there's a possibility that older people would use a different sort of toothpaste than younger people. So sorting it out through age and then still doing a survey could also help get that information. Good evening, by the way.
Thank you, beloved. Thank you. That was really detailed. Gloria, you can speak.
Okay, good evening, everyone. All right. I think yes, they are right. Market survey, yes. Market survey and individual survey to know their preference, like the ones they use. So after conducting the individual survey, then you now analyze it and know the ones that have more numbers than the others.
Thank you, Gloria. Okay, lastly, Franca, you can go.
So, as I was saying previously, I said surveys, user interviews by gathering data to identify the pain points and the goals of your users, and then data analysis.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. So, yeah, you all are very right. I think I've gotten surveys, I've gotten user interviews, I got analysis, and I can't remember okay, I think sorting, yeah, sorting. So, these methods are on point. Thank you all so much. So there are different ways you could actually go about research, but there are some that they're not necessarily for research now, but like you mentioned, analysis, and then somehow sorting too. Although sometimes you could actually collect information with some level of sorting, but analysis is clearly when you've already gathered this information, you've gotten it together. Now, how do you make sense of that information that you've gotten? How do you break down this data to be able to make an informed decision? So that's actually part of the process, but it's not necessarily part of how you get the information. So now, I would not necessarily say it's you can add it to the methodology. Yes, but I feel you get my points. Like when I'm saying research now, it means majorly how you gather information first of all. We still get to the point of how you now make sense of that information. So one of the ways that I've already mentioned, and I'm very sure we are familiar with it, is surveys. So we mentioned market surveys and individual surveys, all of those things. Yes, there are different kinds of surveys, questionnaires, and all of that. I know that know how most of us might have like filled surveys like plenty times. There are times when you can just like I know when I initially got into product design. In fact, that's something you people get to be seeing more often now, because once you join maybe a product design community, they're always sending out surveys, because most times people get to work on we call them case studies. So the same way, when you're done with maybe a course, or um you need to like show experience in your CV. Now, one of the things that a product designer needs to show is a portfolio. So you're not just showing your CV to show, okay, I went to school, I studied product design in school, I studied a product design related course in the university, and all of that. Now, people are interested in that, but recruiters, what they are more interested in is what we call the portfolio. So your portfolio is like everything that you have done. Now, the beautiful thing about apologies for that. Now, the beautiful thing about our industry is that most times the what we can put in our portfolios, like to be able to show that you're good at what you do, in most cases it might not even need to be a real solution, like an actual solution that is in the market, because most times processes are the same. But then it's going to be more Thank you, Helen. But sometimes it's going to be stronger when you've had like experience with an actual product that is in the market. So I was what led me to this now was when I was trying to describe like surveys and all of that. Thank you, Victory. Yeah, so basically you're going to be creating surveys because you need to develop case studies, like maybe work on a project. It could be a hypothetical project just to practice your skills as a product designer. So some of the ways you easily get data, I think surveys is one of the fastest ways you can easily get data. But the thing about surveys is that you use surveys for specific situations. So like I mentioned, we have qualitative data and we have qualitative research and we have quantitative research. Now for a survey, would a survey give me a now this is a question. Would a survey give you more of a qualitative research or a quantitative research? Who wants to quickly answer to that? Gloria, your hand is up. Do you want to just speak to that? Or Joanne, you can speak. I don't know if that she's hearing me.
Okay, I'm here. Good evening.
Good evening.
Surveys are is it will give you more of a quantitative data because it in as much as it's also focused on like the information you want to get, it covers more people, like you get more amount of people that would answer the questionnaire, and you rate when you're analyzing the data. It's like, okay, so percent of people did this, or them people within the age, like maybe if you're on your questionnaire now, like how do I even put it, the age range from 25 to 30, maybe young people, this particular group of people um do a particular thing, you are going to rate it based on the percentage. So it's more of like quantitative. I don't know if I'm putting it in the right
Yes.
language.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much. So surveys
All
are
right,
more
thank
of
you.
quantitative. Yeah, they are more of quantitative when you're not really looking so much at the details. You just want the numbers. So you can quickly use a survey. You can quickly use a questionnaire. Now we have I didn't add it here, but we have the user interviews. Now the user interviews are where you speak with your users, like one-on-one interviews most times. Now, this one-on-one interviews is majorly for qualitative research. So now I'm not just bothered about speaking to 100 people, but I want to speak to, even if it's okay, we actually have a number to it though. Like there's a way we calculate the numbers. They're like formulas to actually calculate to know the numbers of people you need to speak to if you want to do a good qualitative and quantitative research based on industry standards. So there are some formulas you can use to get it. But generally, is that a comment? Daniel, Gloria, you cannot hear me. Can any other person hear? Can every other person hear me?
We can
We
hear
can
you.
hear you.
Yes,
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, okay, I think it's a network.
It's
So
clear. We
everybody.
can hear you properly,
So
mommy.
all right. So that's what user interviews is now you speaking to your users one on one to actually hone in on their needs, their motivations, how they go about doing things, all those things that would make you to understand them better. Now you're not just focused on you're not concerned about the crowd in that case now, because like I already mentioned previously, if there's a high possibility, a high chance based on human psychology that certain people within an age range would make use of something like what I think, I don't know who said that thing right now, but certain people within maybe an age range, when we're talking about the toothpaste, might use more of a certain kind of toothpaste than other people within this kind of age range. Maybe younger people like children, they might use more of all these sweetened
Biscuit.
toothpaste, but older people might
Hello, you
use
finish, yeah?
more of
I'll give you biscuit, okay?
Are you speaking to us, Opa? You cannot. Please mute yourself if you're not speaking to us. So the people using Minty toothpaste now, if I now want to get more information about them, I can now go and start speaking to them one on one. So that's where user interviews comes in. Means you're now interfacing with people one on one to dig deeper into some things that you need to find out. Then we have focus group discussions. Now, focus group discussions is like a group of people coming together to discuss about a subject. Now, in most cases, they are facilitator led. It means that you do not just it's not just like people having random discussions or people just gisting. Like it's more with a goal now. So there's an interviewer there, right? That is bringing up things they can discuss about, and each of you are talking about your opinions, throwing in your suggestions, and all those kind of things. So that's for the focus group discussions. Now again, each of these different methods, like they have we call them use cases. Like there are times when you use them and there are times you do not need to use them. So for instance, if I want to do a one-on-one interview and I want to do a focus group discussion, there are some questions I might ask in a one-on-one interview that I might not need to ask in a focus group discussion. So an example is maybe let's say a very sensitive like issue now, like an issue that is confidential that I want to talk to somebody about. If I'm talking to the person about it now, I do not need to have it in an open group discussion, a focus group discussion, because this focus group is more of everybody together. So anything that is, in most cases, the way we gauge it is based on like levels of would I say discreetness. So you now know, okay, because this kind of conversation is one that is discreet, or I need a kind of answer. Like I need something that everybody can quickly throw in their suggestion and say, no, it's like this, so it's not like this, so then you can easily use a focus group discussion. So that's one of the ways you can gauge when to use any of these methods. Now we have usability testing too. Now this particular kind comes in like at the testing phase of a product. Now in some cases it could be for digital products. I think that's one of the most used cases that we have for it. So there are times when you might not even need to there might already be a product in the market and they're asking you to, okay, you're a researcher, you're a designer now, and I want you to come and improve on this product. Now you do not just go into the you do not just go to meet the users blank, because there's already something you're working with. You do not just go there and start telling them, okay, so how would you use this? The set of questions you would ask a user that has used a product already, and you just want to get more information about how to make that product better, is different from the kind of questions I'm going to be asking a user that for a product that I've not even brought at all, a product that is not even in existence currently. Like maybe you just want to design the product, you've not even done it before, but you want to now do it. So it's going to be a different level of question. So the usability testing is mostly for improving on products. That is to see that, okay, these products, people are actually using it. Remember that I said UX is the goal of UX is to make sure that these things are easy to use and they offer they meet the user's need. So the usability testing now is in the, let's say, in the later stage for some kind of products that have already maybe been in the market and you just want to improve on them. So usability testing comes in that phase to say, okay, are people actually using it? How are they using it? Is it easy for them to use? Are they having any challenges as they use it? So that's what usability testing is. Now, card sorting is another methodology, but it's kind of it's more of an activity now, because you're not just asking the users simple questions. Now, the card sorting activity, it's in a lot of times, instead of asking users questions straight up, like to say, okay, how do you do this? There are times where you need to make it more, let's say, interactive, creative. So you can create things, create like experiences. In fact, the research process itself, like the idea of you even going out to ask people questions is like a design project. Like if you want to give it your best a lot of times, just take it as a design project of its own, because it's like you saying, okay, how best do I ask my users this question that will make them to give me their most authentic responses. So card sorting is one of the ways that you could go about that, and I'm going to give it as an assignment. Goodness, please note, this is an assignment. I need you all to go and do research. We are researchers, we are already designers in the process. So I need you all to go and do your research into the concept of card sorting, and break it down for me. I don't know how you would want to do it, but I'm thinking maybe a document, a one-page document, just drop it on, I don't know, goodness, you can think of a way they can submit it, or you can just be just talk about it in the next session. I would most likely, I don't know, I've been thinking of a way you all can start working in groups. I'm thinking of a way you all can start working in groups, because I think one of the goal of these trainings is not just that each of you are strong designers, but we are trying to build that community thing. So you're growing together, you're doing things together. So would most likely group you guys into have you guys split in groups. I'm going to speak with goodness about it and see how that can be possible. Now you're going to work on the card sorting. I need to understand, I need you all to let me know what the activity is about and how it can, like, just share a scenario where the card sorting activity can be used for user research, UX research. Please, did you guys get this question I gave? Because I'm going to ask of you.
So I didn't get the question.
Yes, we got the question.
Okay, please, can somebody just quickly drop it
Please, ma,
on the
pardon on the
Telegram group
question.
chat? Yes, anybody that got it, please, can you just quickly drop it on the Telegram group chat? Goodness will follow up from there. Thank you. All right, so we have user personas. Once you've done it, please just drop a chat here to tell me that you've done it. Thank you for that. Right, so user personas, we have user personas to have journey. Now, I think one of the
So I can't hear you.
Ma, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you, ma.
Please, let's give her some time. I think it's her network. Please, and also, please, let's take our attendance. I think I pinned it in the message group chat, not Telegram, like in this class. So please do where to put your attendance down.
Can anybody hear me now?
Yeah, I
Yes,
can hear
yes, we
you.
can hear you.
Yes,
Yes.
please, we can hear you, ma.
All right, thank you. So I was saying the user personas and user journey maps are just very similar to what when I shared that analysis is not necessarily a collection methodology, right? So the research generally includes both collecting information, making sense of the information, and getting it to be able to make actionable decisions. Like that is all through our empathy process down to different phases of the design thinking process. Now, user personas and journey maps are some ways to visualize or some ways to actually make sense of your information. That is for there are some levels of analysis that you can do to be able to understand your information better. Now, a user persona, if you remember when I said like you've spoken to 50, maybe 50 people that use close up. Now imagine you now have you've already gotten 50% of them from the research. Sorry, yes, quantitative research that you've done surveys, and you found out that 50% of people in, say, Burundi, as an example, they use close up. Now, if these 50% of people, and I want to speak to them one on one, and I want to get more detailed information about how they use this toothpaste, why they use this toothpaste, what are the things that they've experienced with this toothpaste, and how can this toothpaste be better for them? How would they suggest this toothpaste is improved? So imagine I have those kind of questions and I've asked them. Now, I find out that within those 50 people, or yes, within those 50%, I have some category. Like, I found out that there are some people that are saying they want this close up that is not really minty. They want it to now be minty. Then I'm now seeing like maybe another group, they are saying, like, what I mean by groups is that maybe out of the 50%, I had like 10 people from there that were saying they want it to be minty. Now I have another 20 people that are saying that the issue that they've had with this thing is that it's always like they don't like the let's say the that leaves deposits on their teeth, and they don't really like it and stuff like that. So you now start finding out that some people like there's already like some level of similarity in what they are doing. So now, instead of you to now say, okay, oh, start bringing out, okay, this person said this thing, this person said this thing, this person said this thing. One of the ways you can easily bring that information together to visualize and be able to make a decision is by having a persona. Now, a persona simply means um giving a face to will I say, giving a face now to a characteristic, or a characteristic pattern. So an example is, if for instance, now I've mentioned this 20 people now that one that I've said that it used to leave a deposit in their seats. Thank you so much, Joanne, a fictional character. Now, to represent them, instead of me to, because most times if I start looking at all of these different people, you can easily get confused. So one of the ways we make sure that we've gathered everybody's information and we do not lose anything is by kind of creating a fictional character out of everything that we've seen. So now, when I call this person, like for instance, now in the TEFEM African Fellowship, we have Joanne is in the fellowship, Opa Gloria is in the fellowship, Melvina is in the fellowship, Chisom is in the fellowship. Then we still have some other people in the other different will I say learning tracks. But as far as TFM Africa Fellowship is concerned, the specific, will I say, persona they have right now is, okay, product design students.
Again, people
Um, is anybody saying something? Opera, please can you mute yourself? All right, thank you. So we have product design students, we have those in blockchain, we have students in data analysis, we have the ones in the different departments. Now we have another persona. We have the facilitators, we have the TFM African Fellowship team, those working behind the scenes, like goodness and the likes of them. So that's an example of what a persona is. So they don't need to start saying, okay, what is Joanne? Joanne in this product design class. Like, that's now if you now want to go detail to say, okay, what is Joanne saying about this training? Right? But it's easy for them to make a decision when maybe they find out that out of all the students, the product design students are more engaged, they're getting more involved in their classes. They can easily now place a persona around us and say, okay, product design students, this is what their persona is. They are serious people, they always come for their classes. So please, you should be coming for your classes. So that's the kind of persona we want to be painting. But yeah, that's just what persona is about. Thank you. So journey map now is like you now trying to, is also a way you try to put together information to better see it work or better make sense of it. And it's very simple. Is when you're going on a journey, like you need a map. Oh yeah, where are you going to? Where did you start your journey from? Where did you pass through? Where are the different touch points that you had when you were going? Where are the different junctions? Where are the places that you got to that you needed to say, ah, will I go left? Will I go right? Then where is the final place that you landed on? So that's what a journey map simply is. Now, for every experience, for every product, there is most likely a journey map. There's a way a user begins to use something. There's a way they behave when they are using it. There are things that could change along those there are different journeys. There are some people that might not go through the same routes that I'll go through to use a product. So an example is let's say um okay, so a school is giving out an admission, and in giving out the admission they have the what they have the merit list, they have the supplementary list, they have those that will come in maybe through like special scholarships and all of that. Now these are different ways they've come in to the same school. Now, all these people that have come into the same school, they will still write the same exam. They will still go through the same lectures. They will still write the same assignments. Most of them will now be in different departments. Most of them will now maybe live in the hostels. Some will now maybe stay in off campuses. Some will now be coming from home. So we're now seeing that okay, oh, all these things are happening still within the school, it's still within the settings of going to school. But there are different, we're now seeing different journeys that we can easily draw out from it. I can now see the person that comes in through the merit list, writes the exams, writes the assignments, the person lives in the school hostel, the person finally graduates from school, that person has taken one route. Now another person can come in maybe through the supplementary list, the person still takes the exams, the person still all those things. And then maybe at some point you know I find out that okay, because this person came in through the supplementary list, they did not really start at the same time with those that came in through the merit list because they came in a bit later. So because of that, they were not able to meet up with their assignments, they were not able to meet up with some of the tests, but then they eventually had to write the exam. So I'm not seeing anything about an assignment on this person. I'm not seeing anything about a test on this person. Now that person is a different route. Now these things are journey maps. In different cases, there are different kinds of journey maps for different people. So that's an example of how you can also synthesize information. Any questions before I move on? I think we are almost past time already. Just few more minutes. Let me see if I can finish this up. Okay, Joanne, you can speak.
So I just wanted to ask a question because from a previous class I had somewhere else, the way you're saying it, and I also saw it like this online, like having different user personas for a particular case study. But in a particular scenario, the user persona we chose was like majority of the population. So I want to know when do you actually use one user persona like to depict the majority of what you're working with, and then when do you use like different user personas the way you just spoke about it now?
Okay, thank you, Joanne. So it depends on your data, right? It depends on the information that you've gotten. Now, if like this example I've given with school, each of them are coming from different learning tracks. Now, from are coming from different modes of what do you call it, of admission. Now, if I've been able
Okay.
to see that okay, because they are coming from different modes of admission, I'm noticing some differences in what they are doing. I need to
Okay.
make sense of this data. Now, because the information might already be a lot, there are times when you can say, okay, I'm really not seeing a lot of differences. Like, I'm not noticing most of them are doing things the same way, even if they're coming in from different, even if maybe their journeys are different or something like that. So I can now say, okay, based on what I've seen, this is what is more prevalent with this user category. So I can now give them a persona.
Okay. Okay.
Now, if the product, now again, other things to consider is the first thing, of course, your users, like what is really specific to them. Now, another thing could now be maybe your client, like the business need itself. So maybe the business is looking at creating a product that they've already mentioned they want to focus on a particular kind of user. Now that's a different
Okay.
scenario. You need to now know that okay, the user persona I'm looking for or the user persona I'm focusing on is majorly one. So you can find a lot of personas, but then you decide to just narrow down to one. There are
Okay.
times when you can see several of them and decide to design maybe specific deep, so it can be just one product, but because you know that okay, I have this kind of user in this product, so I'll now say okay, oh, so within this same product let me just have something that can now service this other kind of user. So an example again, still with these people that came into school from different let's say methods now. So the ones that come in through supplementary list, because I know through sorry merit list, so because they start immediately and they go through all the phases, so there might be a higher chance for them to perform better because they did not really have a lot of obstacles. But those that came in through the supplementary list, because I know that it has taken a bit of time. So if I'm to design an experience in that school for them, I can now decide to say, okay, so what if instead of preparing the test and assignments to come in at that initial phase where it will only now serve those that came in through merit list, why don't I now design it in a way that by the time the people in supplementary list are coming in, they can still now take the same test and assignment, so they are not missing out at the end of the day, and their outcomes are almost now the same thing. Do you get? So it's just you trying to understand what are you trying to achieve at the end of the day. Like every research must have a goal. You must know, okay, this is what I'm trying to find out. This is why I am trying to find out about it. So any decision you make on your user category, your user persona, the number of user personas you would now be dependent on the goal of research and of course the what you've gotten from your data, what you are seeing, what you've gotten from your users as information. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question, Joanne.
Yes, yes, it has. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Who else has a question? Is it BA or something?
Yeah, yeah. Mhm. Okay. So, good evening, ma. My question is about the user research. I was just
Okay.
thinking, actually, for example, you want to create a solution for a particular problem. Let's say you are designing a product for people between the age group of, let's say, 65 and above. And we know very well that, let's say, okay, I'm from the northern part of Nigeria, and most of our adults between that age range, they don't use smartphones. And this product will be something they can come in contact with. For example, you give an example with toothpaste. It's something they will come in contact with. So when you are designing, or maybe when you are carrying out your research, how do you have access to them to get those information? In a situation where you are not in the same location as them, how do you get your information?
So much for that question. So yeah, so I think that's part of what I'll cover in the next slide. Like some of the things you need to consider even before you carry out research. some ethics around it. So cultural considerations is one of the things. And then of course, like the different kinds of users you might most likely encounter. So in a case where you know that these kinds of users, how do I get information from them, is one of the things you need to first of all understand. So you've known, okay, this is the information I want to get, and this is who I can get that information from. Now, you need to now think of the best ways to get that information from the person. So if the information is maybe one that you can get through a smartphone. Now, a smartphone is not the only way you can get information. There are several other ways you can get information. You may not necessarily need to go to the location to get that information. Do you understand? So there's the place of secondary research too, like where you can now maybe check online, um records online and all of that, like publications, research already done by other people. That's now secondary research, where you now get information from other sources that is not just the horse's mouth directly. So if you consider that, okay, I cannot go to this location, and maybe your clients, they are telling you, see, we cannot fund you going to this location, then these are some other alternative resorts you could decide to go to. But I think the first thing you need to just tell yourself is, these tools, this let's say the tools, don't be tied by tools, okay? Because tools are not even the main thing. The goal is, what are you trying to do, and how best are you going to get the best possible information? How best are you going to get the most accurate level of information? If it's something that is available online, maybe you need to maybe visit a library, or consult somebody. Now, there are times when, so an example of a kind of interview, I didn't really want to mention it earlier, but maybe it could even work at this point, is SME interviews. Now, SME interviews are another kind of interviews. SME simply means subject matter experts interviews. So now, if I know that I need to speak to elderly people of 65 to 70 years in northern location, like northern Nigeria, for instance, and I know that I may not be able to reach them through a smartphone, and maybe I don't even have any contacts, like I cannot go there in person. Now, another way you can get information about them is to understand let's say, the field or the industry that you need them for. Now, if it's something that has to do with health, you can reach out to a subject matter expert in that industry. So maybe a doctor. Now, a doctor is of course not your user, but a doctor has interfaced with maybe hundreds of your users in his own experience. In maybe 5 years or 6 years, I really don't know if that's correct though. But like a few years of his experience, maybe a northern doctor, a doctor that has worked in northern Nigeria, there's a possibility, a high chance that that person would have the level of information that you would still get if you go to the location. So all these things are different ways you can go about it. But at the end of the day, what you're considering is, if what do I need to find out from these people? How best do I find out this information from these people beyond the tool? So the tool should never be your restriction. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't think I'll take any other questions. We are already almost at time. So let me just touch the last slide and we should be good. Now, this speaking to user research, or yes, yes, research ethics. So these are some of the things that you need to have at the back of your mind as you're going on as you're deciding to do anything around research. Now, the first thing is your participants' anonymity and confidentiality. So this is very simple. It means that if I'm finding out information about somebody, most times it could be sensitive information. Now, you need to be able to assure your participants, because most of these things they are of course for research purposes. So anybody that knows that you're doing something that is for research purposes, the person definitely knows that is maybe to improve on something, to improve on maybe a way of life and all of that. You need to communicate it to them. You don't just assume that they know and then you do not tell them. You need to communicate it with them because it's their right to know that this is what you're using their information for. And then you must be very discreet in handling that information, except it's an open source information, like maybe an information that is already online, everybody knows about it. um there are some things, I mean, in Nigeria some policies are very open, like I know about most of the policies, right? So it's not really so confidential, but there are some things that are very confidential still. So you need to be able to communicate it to your users or to your participants when you want to carry out research with them. And some of the ways you can ensure that their confidentiality is secured is leave most of their responses anonymous. Now I mentioned that qualitative research, right? Most times what you use for it is like quotes, that's what user says directly from their mouth, like actual quotes from them. Then pictures, videos, and all of that. Now to be able to take these pictures, to be able to use those pictures, like to report maybe your research, what you've gotten from research and all of that, you need to make sure that your users are anonymous. So if your users have said, please don't use my name. I think name is one of the things you need to be very skeptical about. People can be, I mean, I would not just want to come and see my name online and you're saying, okay, see you. Melvina said so. Of course, I did say it, but I mean, if you want to say such things, you need to be able to, like, probably if it's a quote or something, you do not just mind leaves. Now, that's, I think it's part of, what they used to call it. In writing, there's something they call it. So you need to always reference. If maybe you don't just hijack somebody's statement anyhow. You need to give credit to whom credit is due sometimes. And then there are times, especially for these kinds of cases, you do not just mention their names except they've told you, okay, you can go ahead and mention my name. So you can go ahead with it. So make sure that confidentiality and anonymity is secure if they want it. And how do you do it? You make sure, thank you so much, paraphrase. Not necessarily paraphrasing, especially for qualitative data. Most times you do not paraphrase. You use it exactly as they said it, but you do not use their names. You do not put their names to it. Like you give them, sometimes you could give them maybe fake names, or like you could assign names to them, or assign code names to them. Thank you. Or fictional characters, fictional names, assign it to them. So another thing is debriefing, right? So debriefing is simply explaining to these people. We have different kinds of debriefing, sha, but this particular one is explaining to them what you want to use their information for, what the research is about before you even start it. That way it helps them to get more engaged. It helps them to be more dedicated to give you sincere responses. Now, if they know that, okay, oh, I'm doing this research to help you, you don't just come and pose it to them and say, I'm doing it for a client so that I will get your money. Well, that's your own business if you want to say it. Then just know that you dash them your money afterwards. But then just help them see the benefit of the research you're trying to do. Explain it to them and they will most likely be open to give you more sincere responses. Now, the next thing is avoid biases and stereotypes. Now, there are times when you might need to um like say do research with people that might not align with who you are, right? Maybe you're somebody that you do not talk a lot, but now you need to talk to somebody that is very, very vocal, somebody that is blunt, a user that like is unfiltered in their words. And you're somebody who is very cautious with words and all of that. Now you do not just start raising your bro to the person and being like, I was this person saying, and you now like start showing the expression in your face. So you need to be very accommodating, like let the person know that you are just there. You're just there to take information and make use of information. So if you're collecting that information, the process of you collecting is you do not need to now put up a fence, because if you try to be defensive in maybe the way you ask the questions, you could maybe put the person away and the person will now start lying to you. And if the person is lying to you, then it means that whatever it is that will come out at the end of that process is not accurate, and it is as much so far it's not accurate, it is not useful. So avoid any level of bias or stereotype. Now, also cultural considerations. I think I answered this when I was speaking to Biaya's question about, like, maybe speaking to, maybe you have somebody in another in northern Nigeria, and you're not able to go there, you're not able to do all of this. So you need to consider all of these things. Now, there are times when you might even need to now go there, or maybe, for example, I'm in Nigeria, I'm a researcher. I could now, maybe, what if I get a project and I need to do the project in, say, in another country, maybe another African country or another country outside Nigeria. So I need to be able to understand the cultural nuances. What is different? Like, what is different in this culture? How do they speak? How do they dress? How do they, all those things, like, they really do matter. Because if I'm speaking to somebody, for example, I'm in southern Nigeria now, and I go to maybe the north, or I go to maybe middle belt or something like that. Now, there's a certain way they do things, there's a certain way they dress, and there's a way they speak, there are language differences, there are language barriers and all of that. So I need to be able to find a way around it. Even if I'm not going to that place, I may not be going there physically, but maybe I might be interfacing with somebody from there. So I need to be able to put myself in their own shoes too, because, like I've said, the design thinking process helps you in doing all of this, because you now know that, okay, as a designer, this is the way I think. So even in knowing how to speak to your users to get information from them, you need to put yourself in their shoes. Putting yourself in their shoes also means being able to maybe communicate in their language, give them and communicate with their own gestures they are used to. You don't just do things that would seem very foreign to them. So that's what cultural considerations could entail. Then, of course, informed consent. Now, informed consent means, as I've told them, okay, yes, so I will not be using your name and all of that. This is what this research is about. Make sure they agree to do it before you start doing anything. Now, if you check most of the let's say applications, websites, there are a lot of times when you sign up for things and they're always asking you, do you agree? Do you agree? The reasons for most of those things is because of legal considerations now. Now, there are laws there are laws to research. Sorry. There are laws to research, and if you break these laws, I mean, you're already in a lot of issues. So these are some of the things that you need to make sure that you have covered before you even launch into the process. So I think this should be all. Yes, I'll take some water now. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, the last thing now is integrating the user research process into design thinking. Now, we've already said a lot about it. I think we even answered to this already. When I asked at what point does user research come in, so it comes in at almost every point. At any point where you need to interface with the user, then of course you need to think the process. Like, you need to do it. You need to be able to have that mindset of a designer to go through any of these phases in your design process. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, any suggestions, anything you want to add, anything that you need more clarity on. I'll quickly answer to that and then we can call it an evening. Somebody must say something. Yes, please, you can speak. Favor, yeah.
Hello. Please, Miss Soto, please can you throw more light into card sorting, please?
Favor, I don't know. Did you hear when I said I gave it to you as an assignment?
Yes, I did,
Okay.
but all right, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. So, what's your name again? Let me check. Ah, I really wish I would learn all of your names. Favor. So, Favor, don't worry. You'll be the one to explain it to me on Friday. I mean, you people have a lot of time between Monday and Friday. Oh. You people be flexing like this. And it's only card sorting I'm giving you as an assignment. Should I give you more assignments? Gifts is laughing. Okay. By show of hands, should I give you more assignments? Wow, you're giving me thumbs down, Osakwe. Wow. Jubilee is giving me thumbs down. Chukwunyeremwa is giving me thumbs down. Okay. It's fine.
Ma, I don't even understand the assignment that you give it. So
What did you say?
I don't really get the assignment that you gave. This one that you want to add. So, oh, you is my case with that.
Did anybody drop that one on the group chat? Let me be sure you got it.
Yeah, somebody did.
Okay. So now the only thing there is how you people now do it. I really wanted you people to do it in groups, like maybe just have a quick discussion around it and you present to me on Friday. So I'm thinking of having 3 groups. So the 3 of you just
No, please.
um, what's Albeta saying? Albeta, what is it?
She's crying.
I don't know why. Okay, I feel like maybe it's well, Sha. But let's just see how it goes. Just people should just impress me with the assignments. Let me not group people yet. Just do your best. You can, I think, just to make it simpler, Sha. Just anything you find, just drop it on the Telegram group. Anything you find around card sorting, drop it on the Telegram group. Let's help each of us. Sonia, your hand is raised.
Okay, ma. Ma, please, can you explain more on that exploratory research? Please, did you hear me?
Yes, I heard you. So somebody is also asking for descriptive research and then exploratory research. So they are both almost the same. Sorry. So they are both almost the same thing. The only difference majorly is that exploratory is, I mean, like the word explore. You're kind of going outside a box to understand something. Okay, please just drop it on the Telegram group, favor. Thank you. You're kind of going outside the box. So I give the example with TEFEM African Fellowship. So if I'm doing descriptive research into TEFEM African Fellowship, it means I want to find out everything there is to know about TEFEM African Fellowship. But if I want to now do exploratory research, it means I'm looking at, okay, I know TEFEM African Fellowship now, but I need to know more about fellowships, like there are a lot of other fellowships. So why should I go for maybe TFM African Fellowship instead of other fellowships? So that's going beyond just a subject matter, still within the context, sha. So that's like a basic example I can give you. as a difference between the both. I don't know if that's clear.
Okay, thank you, ma. It's clear.
You're welcome. Joanne, your hand is raised. Then Amarachi will go next, and we should be done.
Okay. Okay, so I just wanted to it's about the assignment. So we are submitting the assignment on the Telegram group, or would there be a link to submit? And is it like a presentation, or like I'm not very clear about the assignment.
Okay, so um most of us were asking questions around it. So the reason I gave it as an assignment is so that we will start like acting out the process of research. So I would have
Okay.
said a document. I would have said a document, but collecting it now, I may not be able to go through everything. So just drop it on WhatsApp. Sorry,
Okay.
just drop it on the
On
Telegram group
Telegram.
for now.
All
Yeah,
right.
thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, Amarachi.
Okay, good evening, ma. Thank you for the class. I wanted to ask, what is the time duration for the assignment?
Before like tomorrow evening latest, I should have everything on the Telegram group.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we are done. And at time, thank you all so much for the session. I think I enjoyed myself, and I like the fact that you all are we're very active through the session. So we will see on Friday. Please, if you have any questions, I know I keep saying it to but Telegram, like in short, most of these social media apps, like it's actually very most times I really don't even like looking at them. It can get overwhelming, but I'll try to check check on the chat to see if there are any messages and all of that. Yeah, but if you have anything, you can maybe just tag me. Maybe a question that's really bothering you, and you know that I'm the only person in this life that can answer that question. Like you've checked Google, you've done your research, and you did not see the answer, then you can now tag me. But if you've not exhausted all these other options, please do not tag me. Thank you. All right. Bye. Um, goodness, I'll be leaving now. You're here, right?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
All right. Bye.
All right. I hope we all enjoyed the class. Yes, bye. So, ladies, we can now take a leave. If we have anything else to say, we can actually say it in the Telegram group chat. And also, your attention. Good night.